Another episode of the Weber State Weekly Softball Show. We're a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Colby Peterson. On the show today, we've got our returning panel. Folks, I'm so glad you guys always stick around and talk softball with me. We've got Jessica Euler on the show tonight. Jessica, how you been?
Doing pretty dang good. Just wondering what the heck kind of weather we're going to have next. I was golfing last week. We have
Yeah.
snow. Now it's rain. Maybe we'll pick up some of your Tennessee tornadoes. You just never really know.
Yeah. So I don't know if folks have noticed that normally we did not go live on Wednesday night. That was my fault because we had tornado watch out here in Tennessee, and so we were not sure if we were actually going to have power. Power flickered a couple of times, which means your modem goes down, and so that means no Colby in the middle of the show, which could be a problem when you're trying to record a podcast. So we decided to defer to tonight. But yeah, that's what I heard. Crazy weather in Ogden right now. Maybe potentially putting this weekend up in the air a bit because of the way things have kind of, you went from being nice and sunny to now snowing to what I understand is going to be rain tonight. So wild weather in Utah right now. And then we also got on the show tonight, Signpost Zone. Simon Mortensen, come on, where's the
Yeah,
do the
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Here we
The
go.
shirt
My
right
man,
there.
yeah, always flashes the shirt. What's up, Simon?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Be doing way better when the semester ends and I have passed all my classes. I have never been more ready for summer.
What
So,
do we got? Week left?
yeah, 2 weeks, like two
2 weeks.
real weeks, kind of, because the third is just kind of like there. It's mostly for just graduation ceremonies, but yeah, and yeah.
Well, man, best of luck those final couple of weeks. Hopefully, you get through it, off into the summertime for you, and get on with your life. So let's talk about tonight's show, guys. We've got one packed for you. We have a player interview tonight. We have sophomore infielder Emily Ruhl. She's going to be talking to us a little bit about her journey to Weber State, about her growth in the off season, about how playing with a bunch of seniors has kind of helped her develop. So we'll talk about all that. Then we got a weekend review. Beat down of the Birds, shut them out 3 times. Let's talk about it. Plenty to talk about there, and plus we've got a little bit of a preview for hopefully this weekend's games if the weather cooperates against the Montana Grizzlies. They'll be in town, and so we'll see how that shapes out. We've got a little bit of preview for that, and then I've got a new segment that I prepared for the group here, the panel. We're gonna be playing a thing called Dubs Up or Thumbs Down. We liked the FaceTime that Jessica gave us so much a couple of weeks ago that we said, why not give that to everybody? Because it makes for good radio, folks. So we're going to give each and every one of the people on our panel the opportunity to talk about something that they think is cool, dubs up, or something maybe that they think sucks, thumbs down. So we'll be checking that out. Before we get into all that, though, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the show. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all great places to find Weber State Weekly. You can also hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter, a great place to interact with us. I try to hop on during game day. Sometimes the games are going on right now while I'm still working, but still trying to hop on and interact with folks. And so a good place there. And then we also have a Patreon. You go to patreon.com/Weber State Weekly. Our game day chat, if you become a patron, you get into our Slack channel. And man, it's been a little bit dead for softball season. Maybe I need to wake up some of our patrons in there. But if you become a member of a patron of Weber State Weekly, you get into that Slack game day chat along with content that's currently up on Patreon that I promised to put, and I didn't do it. I'm so terrible. I'm sorry. I keep saying that and then I don't. I'll be honest, folks. I've got this like the screen on my laptop broke, and so I've got these like weird lines right in the middle of it, and it makes it really hard to use. And that's an excuse. I'm sorry, but that's really what's going on. And then I also want to shout out the sponsor tonight, Studio 98. Looking for a ring that's cool, not boring, super rad, made locally by a guy who's a former football player, Wildcat through and through. Check out studio98.com. They make lots of really cool stuff, lots of unique woods. They make this nice Flying W ring. If you email them about it, I bet you they'll make you one. I got one, and if you play your cards right, you'll be able to have it nice and fresh and ready for maybe that Tuesday game. I'm just kidding. I don't know how long it takes for them to make them, but if you get it now, you'll be ready for football season in September. So check out the website, studio98.com. That's studio NINE8 and the number 8.com. They got a lot of cool stuff. Supporters of Weber State Weekly, so we wanted to support them. Thanks so much to those guys. So we got through our intro. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. Now let's talk to Emily Ruhl. Emily, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so we appreciate you. Sorry, like I said, we had Emily scheduled to be on last night, but because of my random weird weather, I was not able to make that happen. So appreciate you for being flexible and making some stuff happen for us. So let's dive in. Like I noted, originally from Chino Hills, California, which is just kind of east of Anaheim. I mean, Diamond Bar High School, not just west of Riverside, and so. Talk to us a little bit about that. You've got several teammates who are also from Southern California. Seems like a really good place to play high school softball, play prep. There's a lot of really good club softball going on down there. Talk to us a little bit about that, playing softball down in Southern California and that competition level.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Southern California, I saw some of the best competition, in the entire U.S. And a lot of the girls on the team right now, I actually played in travel ball. So I was seeing, the D1 level competition, in travel ball and playing in high school and stuff. And I think it just really prepared me for getting into college, the mentality, the physical skill sets, and, long days in travel ball prepared me for long doubleheader days, long weekends. And it just really made me into the player who I am today.
I have a couple of questions for you. So, how'd you get into softball? How young were you when you started playing? How'd you make that transition to travel ball? And then, kind of the follow up question is, how'd Weber State then get on your radar? What made you finally decide to come here?
Yeah, so I started playing softball when I was 5 or 6 years old. I started in T-ball. My dad comes from a baseball background. He played in college as well, and so baseball kind of just runs in my blood. And so, I just started playing travel or T-ball with my sister, and fell in love with it. I started playing for my city. I played for my city for a few years, and then when I was about 11 years old, I started playing travel ball with some rec ball friends, and the rest is history. And then now I'm in college. So, um, I've been playing for about 17. No, how long is that? 15 years, probably.
Yeah.
So a majority of my life, it's been softball.
Awesome. And how'd you find Weber State and end up here?
It's actually kind of a crazy story. So when I first started recruiting or getting recruited, I did a lot of research, and I had, I was 11 years old and I had my recruiting binder, and I did a ton of research. I would write down with my Crayola markers where I wanted to go to college, and Weber State was actually number 1 on the list. And I had just looked up like best nursing schools in Utah, and they happened to pop up, and I was like, I'm just going to write it down and see what happens. Well, I lost the binder during that time, and I found it cleaning out my room as I was about to leave for college, and I had forgotten that I wrote Weber down, and I was like, wow, like this was meant to happen. But
Wow.
basically I followed Coach House from BYU, and I love the coaches, I love the area and what the school and team is about. So yeah.
Awesome.
Simon, what about you? Questions for sophomore infielder Emily Ruhl?
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to start by thanking you for beating the Birds that bad, because that was I can't be thankful enough. I'm not gonna lie to you. I always love seeing that sight right there, especially run ruling in the first game. I was like,
Yeah.
The memes. Oh, the memes. It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It was so beautiful. But yeah, as far as the question goes, one of the things that I've kind of noticed with you is you are an extremely dominant fielder, especially this season. Right now, you've only got 1 error recorded, and you got a fielding percentage of 970, which is similar to what Lauren Ho had last year when she won Conference Player of the Year. And so one of the things that we've kind of noticed is this perfect fielding that this team kind of has. Like, what are some things that Coach Amicone does to ensure that the fielding is as clean and as smooth as it can get, and how do you kind of make sure that you're on top of the ball at all times?
We make it a big priority as an infield to keep our fielding percentage above a certain point. And so we go out onto the field every inning with the intentions of being not perfect. I don't want to say perfect, but being as clean as we can, and just controlling what we can to be the best, basically. And we go in with that mindset, like things might not always go our way, but we're going to do everything in our power to help our pitchers out, help our hitting. But yeah, just slowing the game down, not rushing, stuff like that. So
definitely. I think you guys only recorded 2 errors maybe in that entire series against SUU. So yeah, that was something that I definitely noticed. I was like, that's how it's done.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty clean series. And then, like you noted, Simon, run rule in the first and the third games,
That's right.
and then that Mo Ramirez masterpiece in the second game, tying the conference record at 16 Ks in a game. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But what a series! Just a great series from everybody all around.
Yeah, Mo had an incredible outing.
Yeah, I agree. And it was kind of crazy because watching the game on ESPN Plus, Brandon Garside, the voice of the Wildcats for softball, was sort of noting that as she was getting close to, I think her career high was at 12, and then she hits that, and it was like, wow. And then it's 13. And at that point, it's just icing on the cake. You're just watching. And then before you know it, she gets that final out, a swing and a miss for 16. And it was like, wow, there it is. There's the conference record. My goodness. But Emily, let's talk a little bit about your the jump now between this is now your sophomore season, like we noted, and so second season in a Wildcat uniform. Talk to us a little bit about the difference that you feel that the differences in your game from the way you played as a freshman, now coming in with a little bit more experience, being part of a team that was very successful. We've talked a lot about it on the show this year. Ultimately fell short in the conference tournament, which left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And so this is kind of the redeem team. Kind of talk to us a little bit about the work and the kinds of things that you worked on in the off season to prepare yourself for this season and to get better.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is just staying crisp with what you do and staying strong. And it's not easy. I mean, it's a long summer with no softball, not being at school. Obviously, we all go home for the summer. It's tough to stay motivated, but you have to. Like, if you want to be a part of this winning program and this winning mindset, like, you've got to do what you got to do to get the job done. Going to hit, going to field, going to your workouts. Eating as clean as you can in the summer times, which isn't always easy, but just putting the team and the program first. So that's really important.
Yeah. Jessica or Simon, more questions for Emily Ruhl?
Yeah, for sure. So SUU, we talked a little. Is that a little critter by you, Colby?
Yeah, my daughter we got her a hamster a couple weeks ago. So
I love it so much. So Emily, in those games against SUU last weekend, I mean, you kind of really set the tone early in that first game, knocking in 3 with a pair of doubles. So, I mean, just an incredible game. So, can you tell us about how games like that help to build confidence in this as the season schedule, continues with some really tough matchups ahead?
Yeah, I mean, the more at bats you get, the not easier it gets, but the more you see the ball, you start to get into a little bit of a rhythm. And I think coming off of my weekend at Idaho State, I didn't hit my best. I wasn't seeing the ball very well. So I really made it a point to work on a few things during practice that week before the SUU series. And, getting that first hit was like kind of a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, I can do this. I'm seeing the ball well. I want to make a difference in the lineup. I want to help my team. And so I was just seeing the ball really well. It was like the size of a beach ball that weekend, which is always a good thing. But I was just going in with the mentality like I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to, hit the ball hard and drive in some runs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the things is, obviously you guys have had a crazy preseason schedule and done an extremely phenomenal job with it. But one of my favorite things that's kind of coming up is we have this Montana game, which, it doesn't matter where Montana is in any standings. There's always a little bit of animosity there. Exactly.
Always.
Always a little bit of animosity. And then we have Utah right after that, which right now, as far as my stats may be off, they might be a little out of date because I checked it on Sunday, I think. And right now it's Weber State is number 47 in the NCAA and Utah is number 45, if I'm correct. And so it's kind of one of those things where, that's a toss-up game right there where we could take it on and, officially by NCAA standards, be the best team in Utah. Talk to us about kind of that upcoming schedule right there and how much it means.
Yeah, it's just really exciting. Like, obviously Utah has a great program and a few really good coaches. But so do we. So it's exciting just to see the level of competition that happens during those games and a little bit of the rivalry going on, which is really fun. A lot of energy during those games. And, we just both teams give a ton of energy. Both teams obviously want to walk out with a win. And so it's great. It's a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Emily, and so in that last Utah game in Ogden, you hit a home run in that game, and it was kind of like this. I felt like it was a big moment because there had been, I think, Arissa had done some damage. I can't remember. Somebody else had kind of had a big hit, and then you stepped up, and then you hit the dinger, and it was like, oh, okay, like things are rolling right now. And then your teammates, they followed suit, and so I just wondered, like, going into that game, having the game that you did against Utah the last time that they were in Ogden just a couple of weeks ago, and talking about what we just talked about with the series against SUU, where you said the previous weekend in Pocatello things weren't exactly going your way, and nothing on you because it was they ran a couple of really great pitchers out there. We talked about that on the show, that Idaho State has a pair in their battery that are just they're pretty good. But then SU comes to town and you get some hits and you really kind of build that confidence. And then you have an opponent that you had some success against in the past on Tuesday as well. I mean, do you kind of roll in with a how do I want to say it, like a little bit more confidence because you've had success, or is it just like square one every time? Every game is different, and so you just kind of see what you can get.
I mean, mindset wise, you walk in with, we're back to square one because you are starting over every at bat and every game. That last game against Utah, I don't know what I hit, but it doesn't really matter at that point what I hit in that last game. It's like, okay, what's the next game going to bring? And I always have to come in, with confidence. Like, I am going to be successful, but humble at the same time, and just saying, like, it's a good pitcher, but I'm a good batter. So it's always going to be a good little competition.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Emily, I'll ask one last question here. We won't keep you any longer, but I want to talk a little bit about the senior presence on this team because it's a pretty senior laden team. There are a lot of really influential folks on this roster right now, all working like we talked about before. Redeem team, time to get back to the conference championship and get some more rings, add some more banners to the outfield, which I always like to see. And so I kind of wanted to talk about how, like, having that many seniors on the team has helped you as a young player kind of develop, and kind of how that mentorship has helped you grow. Because I mean, in my career, obviously this is not sports, but just having people to kind of help you work through some stuff. Like, I've had some really good bosses that have kind of helped me become a better person. And so I wondered if the seniors on the team are kind of helping you and mentoring you in the same way. And if so, kind of who has had the biggest impact in your young career as a Wildcat?
Right. No, our seniors are great. I really couldn't ask for anybody else to look up to. Coming in as a freshman last year, I was a little bit scared, obviously. I was moving away from home, starting my college career, trying to figure out life without a family out here. But the seniors just made me feel super welcome. Immediately, I was like, wow, this is really a family. I can lean on them with anything. They taught me what it is to play Weber State softball. There's so many things outside of softball that they've taught me. And just learning, like, you know what? We're a family and we win together, we lose together, we do everything together. But I would say one person that I really looked up to in my college career so far is definitely Chloe. Um, she has been playing third base a little bit in front of me for the last 2 seasons. She was always kind of the go-to third baseman at the beginning of the season, and she is an amazing hitter. Like, I really look up to her in how aggressive she is, how confident she is, but she also just does it with a lot of, like, she's really humble about it. And so
Yeah.
I just look up to her because she's a great teammate. She's a great teammate on and off the field. Like, I really can always count on her, but I can look at her skills and kind of say, like, okay, what do I like about, what is she doing that makes her so good, and kind of take some of what she's doing, implement it into what I do to, make me a little bit better as well.
That's great. Jessica or Simon, any last questions burning in your minds before we let Emily go tonight?
What are your thoughts on the upcoming matchup with Montana tomorrow? What are you thinking going into the game tomorrow?
Last year was a battle. It was freezing in Montana last year when we were up there, and you know, I think we lost one of our games against them. So definitely a little bit of rivalry there. They have a good program, but so do we. So it's going to be a good game, good series, and I'm excited to see what this weekend has for us.
Definitely. And then just one thing right there. One of my favorite things about the schedule is that Portland State matchup at the end of the season. I think there's a little bit of poetic justice in there. That last year they were the team that kind of knocked us out, and then this year, we got them right at the end of our schedule. What are you kind of feeling about that? What are your thoughts, kind of just having them right there for us?
I think it's going to be really exciting right before the tournament. Obviously, we lost to them in our tournament last year, and so we kind of have a little bit of fire in our bellies going into that series. Like, we're going to redeem ourselves kind of and go into that tournament with a lot more confidence.
Definitely.
Indeed. Well, sophomore infielder Emily Ruhl, want to thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly. Want to wish you all the best of luck this weekend against the Grizz. Obviously, we'll be rooting you on. Folks, get up to Wildcat softball field if you can this weekend, because it's going to be a lot of fun. It's obviously, like we said, it's always good to beat the Grizz. And like Emily noted, I mean, this is a good quality softball team. We've talked a lot about it all throughout the season, about how what they're doing has kind of been unprecedented, and the rankings that they have. And so a couple more opportunities to see them live and in person at Wildcat softball field. They're in the midst of a long homestand. So WeberStateSports.com, get your tickets, show up there, man, and go Wildcats. Emily Ruhl, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
See ya.
Want to thank Emily one more time for coming on Weber State Weekly and talking softball. Really appreciate her, especially like Simon said. Right now, it's crunch time on campus, getting stuff done. So let's roll through the rest of our show here, folks. Let's talk a little bit about last weekend. Let's talk about this SUU sweep, man. We made some memes. We had a good time making memes about beating SUU, not just in softball, football, volleyball, soccer, hockey. The hockey team shut them out too. I mean, man, that's a lot of shutout. I mean, guys, looking at this, so going through 25-0, the Wildcats scored 25 runs to the Birds 0. I mean, thoughts on the weekend overall? Because obviously the Wildcats rolled, they crushed, they run ruled them twice. Mo Ramirez had a masterful performance in the second game. Overall, could it have gone better? Give me your thoughts.
I loved it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kobe, but did SUU kind of transfer over to another conference because they said they needed a little bit more competition? I remember that being quoted. Am I right?
I think their words were Weber doesn't see us as a rival. I think that's what they said, which is disappointing because I
Right.
do. I really
I
do.
It's a rival. Like, yeah. No, definitely. Like right now, this is a nail and hammer rivalry, but it's still a rivalry. No, I love these games. You have a record breaker right in the middle of that series, and it's the only game that they don't run rule on, but like it's phenomenal. And so yeah, love seeing it. So
yeah, I think it was just an incredible game, series of games, and it played out a little bit like we talked about last week, like we thought it would, which it, always worries you a little bit going in that confident against such a team to be like, okay, is it actually going to pan out this way? And oh heavens, yes, it did. It was, I would have loved to see a few more home runs because Chloe got knocked down a little bit in the national rankings this week. But overall, I mean, it couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, overall, the bats were there. And we talked about that, right? About how this team had the absolute worst ERA in the conference by double the next worst team. So it was like we know the Wildcats, especially after the bats that we saw up in Pocatello, we knew that they were going to score runs, right? And they did. 25 runs in 3 games. That's pretty impressive. Run ruling them twice. But then also, not giving up a single run. I mean, I think that is so big for this Weber State pitching staff to continue to have that. And I think especially for Mo, because it feels like she's really starting to gain some momentum right now. And that performance on Friday afternoon, that second game, I think really is going to pay dividends now as we start to go on through the schedule, because it's going to get tougher, right? Like I was looking through and just looking at stats, like we've got a series against Sac State coming up. Sac State has the top 3 batters in the conference, 1, 2, and 3. Boom, boom, boom. Right. And so there's some really good offenses we're going to be seeing soon. And then also, like you noted, Simon, there's that Portland State series coming up, and Olivia Gray, I think is her name, is their pitcher over there. And yeah, Olivia Gray is leading the conference right now with a 1.67 ERA. She's good. She's really, really good. And so it's good to see the bats kind of doing what they need to do, because you know that they're going to roll her out there. And should the Wildcats see the Vikings at some point in the conference tournament, you know Olivia Gray will be pitching that game, right? And so if the Wildcats can do something and wake the bats up against her, all the better. But she has been absolutely dynamite for them.
Yeah.
But overall, great series against the Birds. Didn't allow a single run. Love to see that. Also, like I noted, Mo Ramirez tied the conference record with 16 Ks in a game, and then she goes on to win Pitcher of the Week. I mean, folks, is she back? What do you think? Is she back, or are we gonna have to see how things shake out against tougher competition?
Absolutely. I love it. I love having her back, and having that game, having that week, everything like that. Because I always love it when I see, basically 2 Wildcats in the running for pitcher of the year, which is pretty much the case right now. I mean, Olivia Gray is up there, but
Yeah.
I mean, do we really put her? We're not going to put her above Arissa Henderson. There's no way. And I don't think we put her above Mo Ramirez either. So, yeah.
Yeah, because a couple of things that I would note: Gray gets more strikeouts than anybody else. She's got 167 strikeouts, which is far and away better than anybody else in the conference, right? But a thing
Yeah.
that I note is that she walks a few more batters than Arissa has. She's given up 10 more runs than Arissa has, and so and she's pitched. I mean, she's pitched a lot of innings, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I feel like there's an opportunity there. She's been really good, but we'll see. But I think it's good to kind of see the Wildcats, and also we haven't said a word about Mandy Sink. Mandy Sink is currently 4th in the conference. So the Wildcats
Yeah.
have Arissa Henderson at 2 with a 2.02 ERA. Then they have Mandy Sink at 3.22, and then Mo Ramirez at 7 with a 3.60 ERA. Nobody else has more than 2 pitchers in the top 10 in the conference. Nope. Not even. Nope. Sac State only has 2. Yeah. So the Wildcats have 3 of the top pitchers, of the top 10 pitchers in the conference right now. So a good position to be. And like I said, it's good to. It feels like, I mean, softball is a game where it's all about getting hot at the right time. I think that's what Portland State did last year, right? They got hot at the right time, and they ended up becoming conference champions for it. And it feels like the Wildcats, even though they've had a lot of success, this pitching staff is really starting to find its groove right now. And the offense is really starting to find its groove, especially against tough pitching like we saw against Idaho State in Pocatello.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice to be 3 deep. I mean, they look great. Mo had an incredible game. I think that's a confidence booster moving forward. We've definitely seen her improve as the season's gone on. But it's also fantastic to see. It was great to see Mandy in that last game, and she pitched so well. And there was 1 minute near the end. I don't remember what inning it was in. I was like, ooh, it's getting close. I wonder if they're going to take her out. And she came right back out, got her head in the game, and cleared everything out real good. So it's just nice to be that deep for when we play Portland State, because certainly Olivia's a fantastic pitcher, but they don't have 3 Olivias, and I'd argue we do, right? So it was a great game, really, between all 3 of those games, to see that we continue to have a dominant, pitching group.
Yeah. Because right now, Gray leading the conference in innings pitched at 130, and that number is only going to go up. 130 innings pitched.
Well, and I think it's fun, Mo set her record in the second game. Tomorrow, I'm sure tomorrow or Saturday, Arissa will likely get her 100th strikeout of the season. So, I mean, it's not 167, but it's still a whole heck of a lot of strikeouts in a season. So it's fun to see them.
Yeah. So now let's turn our attention now to the Grizzlies who come to town this weekend. Grizzlies have kind of this weird up and down season a little bit. They had a good series against SUU, took care of business against them, so did what they needed to do. But then they go and they play. I think they played Idaho State in Missoula last weekend and dropped 2 of 3. They lost the first 2 and then had to come back and win the third game. And so, I mean, it feels like looking at the numbers, like they've got some folks, and we'll talk about a little bit of what they've got right now. But like overall in rankings, batting, they're the fourth best team in the conference with the 290 batting average. Pitching right now, they've got a team ERA of 4.27. That's fifth in the conference, right? Fielding, they're number 3 in the conference, with their 969 fielding percentage. And so it feels like there's a lot of they're not a bad team, so they could beat you, right? If you're not careful, they could beat you, but they're also not a team that are going to come in and really blow the doors off, right? And so this kind of puts me in a weird situation because it's like I don't know what to expect. They've had some good games, they've had some bad games. Which Grizz team are we going to see this weekend? What are you all's thoughts?
I think that's kind of one of those things where you look at back at the start of April, around April 8th, which I guess isn't the start, but they started that series against Idaho State, and they lost that series 2-1. And that was the thing where we talked about Idaho State coming in as one of the better teams as far as batting, one of the better teams.
Much improved.
Yeah, much improved. And that's one of the things is like, Weber State, you got Chloe Camarero, you got Faith Ho and Lauren Ho. I don't even need to talk about the rest of the, batting, the stellar batting that's on Weber State's team and the stellar pitching. I think that's one of those things is that the batting, I don't think Montana has that pitcher that's that it factor that can really shut down the Wildcats. And I think that's going to be one of the reasons why we really have success against them.
What about you, Jessica? Your thoughts on this Grizz squad?
Yeah, I really think the same as kind of what Simon's talking about. When we look at Montana, they don't have a star pitcher. They have a rather decent pitcher, run of the mill, but when you're lined up against our seniors, right, it's just a hard matchup there. So, if you look at overall fielding percentage, they're up there a little bit, but I'd argue, defensively is pitching and fielding together. So I just think it'll be interesting to see. Certainly they could make up for some of it in fielding, what they might not have as much of in pitching. But I think it'll depend a little bit. I think we are just a stellar team. We're coming off of a heck of a lot of good games. We've built our team with that non-conference schedule. I'm feeling pretty confident going into this matchup, especially because we're at home. I think it might be a little bit different if we traveled for this, and maybe we end up being 2-1, but I would absolutely argue that we win the series.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet, right? That the Wild win this series overall. I mean, anything could happen, of course. Softball can be very crazy, but overall, I mean, the Wildcats have what it takes to win the series, and so we'll see what that brings. You mentioned the Grizz. They have a great pitcher in Dana Butterfield, who is a 4.14 ERA. She is currently. Let me go back to this. She is currently in the conference at 4.14. That makes her the 9th best pitcher in the conference. That's their ace, as it were. That's their best pitcher, and so yeah. I mean, it feels like maybe they'll pitch her twice in the weekend, but that means somebody else is going to have to pitch too. And it feels like, based on what we've seen, especially at home, like you said, Jessica, the Wildcats have done a really good job playing at home. They have been very, very good at Wildcat softball field, and so with a pitching staff that is that has somebody good but not blowing the doors off, getting a lot of swings and misses, or getting a lot of ground ball contact, I would expect the Wildcat bats to continue to have the success that they've had. It feels like they've gotten hot, they've gotten warm, and they're ready to go. And so I wonder how the Wildcats will respond to Dana Butterfield, because just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how I was very nervous to see what, Haley Rainey was going to do against the Wildcats, because she was very good pitcher. And plus the Bengals could also roll out Emma McMurray. And so the Bengals had these 2 really good pitchers that they could, throughout the weekend. And that's what they did, right? They pitched Rainey twice. They pitched McMurray once. The Wildcats really roughed up Rainey, especially in that second outing against her, the third game of that series. And so, I mean, honestly, like right now, I look at it and I go like, they could beat anybody. They could beat anybody right now in the conference. Like nobody's that good because you look at the ERA and you look at the numbers and say, well, I mean, it's good, but I mean, then you have those kinds of outings where it's like this pitcher's really, really good until they face the Wildcats. Then they get roughed up. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think that's one of the things too is you have Allie Brock, who's not that far behind Dana Butterfield as far as ERA or anything like that. But one thing to note is that both of those pitchers have um, they're under 500 as far as their records go for games. So you know,
Not
I
a
don't think that. Yeah, oh, there we go. I was just gonna say I don't think that strong pitching performance is really they might be relying on it too much, or it's just not enough for that offense to really get over the hump. So
yeah. And so just kind of looking at some of the numbers, like you said, the Grizz sit right now. They have 178 runs scored this season. That puts them about middle of the conference, right? The Wildcats are in the lead, 207 runs scored, and that's with the dynamic offense that Sac State has right now. They've got 186, right? And so when the Wildcats have rolled, and they have really pushed that number up. Speaking of offense, last thing I want to talk about with the Grizz, and then we can move on to the next segment. Um, Montana has 3 top 10 hitters in Megan McGrath, Presley Jansley, and Julie Phelps. We've seen that the Wildcat pitching staff has been able to hold against good hitters. We noted that against not SUU. We noted that against ISU. They had what was her name? Rihanna Lewis. And we were worried about what she was going to do. She's a 356 hitter. She has a pretty good slug percentage. It was like, what is she going to be a hitter that really does damage? And they've really kind of neutralized her. She really didn't have a lot of success against the Wildcats. And
Yeah.
so with those 3 in the lineup, I think that maybe what this tells us is this is a little bit of a precursor to maybe what we'll see against Sac State soon. Is if the Wildcats are able to hold 3 top 10 hitters to pretty low numbers, that gives some confidence hitting the road, going to Sacramento to take on the 3 best hitters in the conference. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on the Grizz offense and how the Wildcat pitching staff will handle it?
yeah, well, I think that's one of those things is you have a batting average of 290 right now with Montana, which is a respectable batting average, everything
Sure.
like that. Um, the problem is like we saw Idaho State, and Idaho State looked good. Like they looked really good, and they're still looking good. Like, but against the Wildcats, that's the biggest problem is that the Wildcats made pretty quick work of a team that gave Montana a hard time and gave them a losing series even.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things to consider is like, um, that batting percentage of 290 looks good against other teams, but Weber State isn't another team. This isn't another team in this conference. This is one of the best teams in the NCAA. You're not just playing, against, and there are other good teams in the Big Sky, but not even close to what Weber is right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying, that I do think this will be a good test having those top 10 hitters to prep us a little bit for Sac State. But once again, when you look at that non-conference schedule, I think we've seen some rather incredible hitters already and have done quite well. So I, certainly, like we've said before, anything can happen with softball. And I think it'll be good practice for the upcoming matchup against Sac State, but I think we'll have a good showing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of going back through the schedule here for Montana, seeing if they have really any kind of signature wins. Um, one thing that kind of jumps out to me is the fact that they split with Nevada, who the Wildcats handled easily.
Yeah.
And then I got to make memes because of that. So yeah, about how the Wildcats dominating the state of Nevada. So yeah, I think you're right. It should be interesting, and I think that the transitive property gives me confidence that an Idaho State team who you know ended up losing 3 straight to the Wildcats with a good pitching staff, ended up going up to Missoula and having a pretty easy time against the Grizz. Transitive property leaves me to believe that the Wildcats have a good time, but you never know until it plays out on the diamond. So we will see what happens. All right, now let's move on to our new segment, Dubs Up, Thumbs Down. Guys, talk to me. First, before we get into this, I found this great photo online. I wanted to put it up on the screen and kind of show you guys. Great photo to show everybody. Man, look at that. Look at those folks. Aren't they?
I mean, that's a pretty impressive photo right there.
Dubs up. My goodness. All right. Let's get serious. Who wants to go first? You got something you want to shout out? Something that maybe is grinding your gears? Talk to me, folks. 60 seconds of FaceTime. You get your chance. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, Jessica Euler. Let's keep the tradition and let's go to the 60 seconds. Your time starts. Let me do it proper. I'm not gonna steal an extra second from you. Your time starts now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hit I'm going Weber State sports with my 60 seconds.
Great.
So my only thumbs down that I can think of at this time, because we're rather dominant, is the JMU matchup with football. I'm still a little bit disappointed that they ended up pulling out on that one.
Yeah.
That being said, season tickets go on sale starting tomorrow, and I'm hoping that we can redeem ourselves this coming year. So should be exciting. Lots of thumbs up, though. So I love looking at stats before we talk about softball. We're 16th in the nation right now in fielding percentage. We're still up there a little bit with, kind of how we're doing overall. You said we're behind Utah and BYU now, but I think we're going to come back. So maybe that's I don't know what's between dubs up and thumbs down. And Valeda Harris re-signed her contract. Super exciting to see what that looks like. And finally, I just want to give a huge shout out to Weber State Sports again with how our cheer team did at Nationals. So once again, we won, brought home small and large co-ed champions. Our dance team did well as well, but it feels like a really dominant streak for Weber State Sports, and it's been exciting to see.
Number 3 in hip hop, wasn't it?
Yep.
Hip hop or jazz.
And fifth in something.
Yeah. So great showing by the Wildcats. Absolutely great showing. And by the way, did you guys see that hype video that they put together? It wasn't the Wildcats that put it together. It was some other outlet. They put together this like behind the scenes video, and the team shared it out. Man, that video was fire.
It is just such a fun group, and to have that consistent national recognition, and even so many of the individuals on the team to have such a huge following, really, from folks with some of the incredible stunts that they do is awesome.
Have you ever seen their Instagram and the what's it called, TikTok followings right there? Like, they've got millions of them. Like, I had
thousands and millions.
Yeah,
easily the most famous people at Weber State. Easily.
Yes.
All right, Simon, now it's your turn. You want to give your 60 seconds of FaceTime? I realize I got to do it this way. Let's hear. All right, right up there in the grill. 60 seconds of FaceTime starts now.
All righty. Well, I guess I'm going to talk about some Weber State sports too. This is one that we haven't really brought up yet as far as Weber State Weekly or anything, but the women's tennis team just barely clinched #1 seed in the Big Sky. I think Northern Arizona, was the other team that only had a 1-loss season. But you look at Megan Lombardi, you look at Cecilia Furiera. I've only written her name in print. I've never actually read it out loud or anything like that. But yeah, phenomenal players. It's one of those things. I think it's Ruth Allen, since she's got onto the program in 2019. This is her 24th in-conference win, or no, it was like 29th all-time win, and then there's a bunch of in-conference wins. But I'm really excited for that. That'll be awesome to come up in Phoenix. Also, I interviewed Coach Hammer just recently. Awesome dude. I think it's one of those things, like this new Weber State offense. It's going to be pretty killer.
Oh.
There we go.
So one clarification, though. You said you interviewed Coach Hammer. Did you mean Coach Mental, the new offensive coordinator?
Did I say Coach Hammer?
You did.
Oh, my gosh, guys. As you can tell, this is the end of the semester for me, right?
You interviewed Coach Mental, though.
I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Yep, I did mean Coach Mental, and Coach Mental is awesome. I think Coach Hammer was cool too, but Coach Mental, I was the one I interviewed him and he was awesome. So
That's great. And my understanding with the tennis thing is that it is the first regular season women's tennis championship in 22 years.
yeah,
Wow.
yep.
Awesome.
So trending in the right direction, which is also the headline from Brett Hine with the signing of Coach Valeda Harris's new 3-year deal.
Yeah.
All right, folks. All right, I'll do some. I'm only going to do 30 seconds. I'm not going to complain that much. But I'll go down. It's like you don't need to hear from me for a whole minute. So I'll go 30 seconds here. Just a couple of things that I want to talk about really, really quickly. My time can start right now. I want to shout out so Dub's up to the spring game, which will be coming up this Saturday. It's free, man. You can go up to Stewart Stadium and you can get to see this new offense that Coach Mental has put together for the Wildcats. Get to see it for free on Saturday. I think it's 2 p.m. is when the game starts. But then also the thing that I wanted to shout out Dubs up for was the Wildcat yard sale that they're going to be doing. They're going to be like selling a bunch of stuff from athletics at that. And man, Dubs up for doing that. Thumbs down for Colby Peterson not being able to participate in that remotely, man. I'm sure I'd love to buy that stuff, but I can't be there physically. So it is what it is. There's my 30 seconds. That was that. All right. Well, let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. I've got 4 games on. So we've talked a lot about it. Friday, April 15th, the Montana Grizz are in town. Montana at Wildcat Softball Stadium, Wildcat Softball Field, 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., just like all the other doubleheaders that we've seen, folks. ESPN Plus, or get your tickets, WeberStateSports.com. I mean, you should have just bought your season tickets. It's crazy cheap. You should have just bought season tickets. I'm just saying. Then you could say you're a season ticket holder. That feels good, right? Can you guys agree?
Totally.
Yeah. And then one more game, Saturday, April 16th against Montana, 12 p.m. Depending on the weather, from my understanding, they might have to move some stuff around. So these things could change, but we hope that everything works out, everything goes to schedule, and the Wildcats get opportunities to play. And then Tuesday, April 19th, Utah coming back to Wildcat Softball Field. This game is very possible to get to on a work day, guys. It's a Tuesday, and first pitch at 5 p.m. So find your way up to Wildcat Softball Field, man, because Utah is coming back, and this will decide the season series. This will be the last time the Wildcats see Utah, and should the Wildcats find their way to a win, I can bet you that it helps those RPI ratings, helps those NCAA ratings. You know, if you're in the quest to be the best team in the conference or in the state, beating Utah one more time could really help that. So that's the upcoming schedule that we have. I think there is maybe only one more Tuesday game, and then after that, it's going to be weekend games the rest of the way out. So that's the show. That's it. Wrap it up. WeberStateWeekly@gmail.com if you want to email me. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, blog, new content coming soon. As soon as I get my stupid screen fixed. This isn't fun. I'm telling you, it's right here. It's like right in the middle, and then it's right here. And it's like, it's the worst. It happened when I went to Knoxville. Anyway, want to thank both Jessica Euler and Simon Mortensen for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly, being a part of our illustrious panel. Thank you both. I've done a solo show, guys, and I can tell you it's really hard. So I appreciate you being on here once a week to talk softball. And plus, it's really exciting. They're winning a lot of games right now. This is a fun team to talk about, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is.
So we'll wrap it up. Weber State.
Great.
Great.
Great. Go Wildcats.